Hey, some of you family, I'd love to tell you the story behind the Christmas song, O Little Town of Bethlehem, likely based off of Micah 5:2. But you, O Bethlehem Ephrathah, who are too little to be among the clans of Judah, from you shall come forth for me one who is to be ruler in Israel, whose coming forth is from of old, from ancient days. This song has two absolutely fascinating connections with December 24th, Christmas Eve. And admittedly, before learning of this story behind the song, I hadn't really connected with the song very much. But hearing this story has made me excited to sing it and to connect with it. So this song was written by an American pastor named Philip Brooks in the 1800s. And he was what nowadays we would call a celebrity pastor. He was a very gifted speaker. He was known for dynamic, powerful sermons. And he was also really good at growing churches. So he started a church and it grew from 30 kids in the Sunday school to 1,000 kids in the Sunday school in 1 year. However, Pastor Philip Brooks lived in very challenging times. He lived during the Civil War. And in fact, when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, he was called upon to be able to speak at the funeral. The Civil War was a challenging time for his listeners, and it left them, many of them without husbands, many of them without hope. And ministering through these years took its toll on him as well. And so by the end, he felt like he was running on empty and that he needed to be able to take a sabbatical. So he took a trip to the Holy Lands to be able to get refreshed and renewed in his faith. And on December 24th, after having a full day of touring things, he still wanted to take more of the area in. And so he got a horse and he took a ride from Jerusalem to Bethlehem, even though it was against the advice of the locals who warned him that he might encounter thieves during his horse ride. During his time, he did not encounter thieves. However, he did behold something that stole his breath away. He had an amazing experience of solitude, getting to take in the scenery on horseback for a number of hours of quietness. One of the things that stood out to him was he passed by an area, a region where shepherds watched over flocks by night. And he was thinking about how 2,000 years ago, in that same place, there were shepherds watching over their flocks by night. He approached Bethlehem, and as he approached this small town, is right when the first stars were starting to show up. As he entered the city, he was struck by the smallness of it. It seemed like probably not much had really changed in the last nearly 2,000 years, and it was a very small place. He walked through the city and approached the place, the traditional site of the birth of Christ, where a church had been constructed. And there were people who were singing Christmas Eve songs. They were singing hymns that night. And all of these things combined, the time in solitude, the landscape, the stars, the shepherds, the smallness of the town, the singing inside, left him with this impression. It impacted his deeply worn out soul. And as he tried to describe it later, he said that experience left his soul singing. He came back from his sabbatical and he tried to tell everybody about what he experienced, but words just failed him. He just couldn't put to words this amazing experience he had had in Bethlehem on that December 24th. And so 3 years passed after his sabbatical, and one day words just kind of came to him. He wasn't trying hard, but effortlessly a poem came to him with these words. O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. He then rushed the poem to his church organist, Louis Redner. And as Redner read the poem, he felt like he finally understood this experience that his pastor had had on sabbatical. And so he agreed to try to turn this poem into a song by matching it up with a melody. And so Redner hammered away on the piano for hours, but unfortunately he was successful. He was unsuccessful, that was. He went to bed and admitted that he had failed. And so on December 24th, he went to sleep without a song. But when he woke up, he had a melody. He felt like he had been given a melody, a simple but perfect melody to pair up with the poem in his sleep. And so it was that we acquired a melody that you and I sing today, one that was given to a man in his sleep in his Christmas Eve slumber. I hope that hearing this song will cause you to slow down and consider these lyrics in the shockingly small and ordinary setting that God chose for the King of Heaven to be born. In fact, I'd encourage you, whether personally or as a family, to turn this into a devotional and look at Micah 5:2 and then look at Luke 2:1-7 and just freshly consider the smallness and the ordinariness of Bethlehem, the place that God chose for the King of Heaven to be born. As the song says, "Yet in its dark streets shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight." And I hope that you will join us for our Christmas Eve service. I want to invite you to join us December 24th, 4:30 p.m., both in person and on the live stream. I wish you a very Merry Christmas, Summit View family and friends.